Well, here goes nothing. Let's f***ing lose. Before I forget, guys, I want to make mention that all of these parts came from tmolding.com. They are a stateside company located right here in the United States, and they have everything that Ultimark sells overseas. So if you don't want to deal with buying from London and waiting for something to ship overseas, they are the same prices. It's the same products. You can get buttons, joysticks, arcade parts galore, pinball parts, whatever you need. tmolding.com, also known as Arcade Renovations. Make sure you use the Scantron 5K promo code. Add that to your shopping cart when you're checking out. Save that 5%. I like to promote good companies that practice good business. tmolding.com does not slack. Make sure you use that Scantron 5K promo code. Save that money. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the lab. Today I am getting ready to do a conversion on my cabinet that, quite frankly, I've been putting off for a very long time. But some of my comrades have changed my mind on this topic, and I'm talking about LED Blinky. Right now, I currently have LED static buttons on my machine. They work perfectly fine. However, the glory of LED Blinky has been calling my name lately because I got a lot of homeboys that are really into it. And there's some custom scripts and things that make it a little easier. So here we go. I got 39 LED buttons here. So these are the actual LED Blinky buttons. These are gold leaf buttons. I did go with the diffused concave top. I really like the concave look and feel of the classic arcade button. So essentially, you got two leads on the bottom of each button. You're gonna hook up the leads that currently exist in your cabinet for your momentary press, and then you're gonna run this to the pack LED boards. Now that is basically the brains of the operation. That's what's gonna control these buttons and the lights and what games and what colors they light up for those games. I actually don't have the boards in yet. They're supposed to be at my house tomorrow, but that's not stopping me from getting started today. There's plenty to do. Also, you guys saw this bad boy on one of my more recent videos. My boy Arcade Adam sent this to me when I had my new PC build show up, and you can see that video on my channel. I'll drop the link in the description below. Basically what we have here is a diffused trackball. So this is where I'm gonna start today. Some of you guys might already have a diffused trackball in your machine, or maybe you just have a solid white one or whatever. I have a red diffused trackball in my machine because it's basically static red color at all times. This clear diffused trackball will be able to be illuminated any color that we want with the LED Blinky setup. And this is actually the piece that we need right here for the trackball. Let me open this up, I'll give you a look. This is what we're using for LED Blinky under the trackball. You can see it has 6 LED lights. This is gonna wire into your pack boards. And this gets mounted on the bottom side of your trackball. This is meant for a 3-inch half trackball. And if you ask anyone who's anyone, and I'm gonna say my piece here, half trackballs are the trackball. I don't like USB trackballs, I don't like cheaper trackballs. I play a ton of Golden Tee on my machine, and I want a real half trackball. So that's what I have in my machine. However, we do have a ball that we're gonna be swapping out for the one that's in there. A standard half trackball typically has a white trackball for Golden Tee and bowling and stuff like that. It's the real deal. Don't skimp on the trackball. Get yourself a hat. So let's not delay this any longer. Let's get into this right now. All right, boys, quick rundown of what LED Blinky does in case any of you don't know. So you can see I have my static buttons here, static trackball. This is what my playfield always looks like. Basically, what LED Blinky is we're going to replace all of these buttons with those little milky diffused buttons. And what happens is when your game is in, let's say it's in a track mode like mine's in right now, you can have it basically doing color waves, and you can set individual colors for each button or however you want it to look when it's not in a game. When it lands on a specific game in the menu, it will actually just show you what buttons work. Now, depending on what buttons that game had in the arcade, right? So It will leave the rest of the buttons off on the playfield if that's what you prefer. I really can't wait to get this up and running for you guys. I've been sleeping on it too long. Today's the day. All right, so let's get inside this control panel and start swapping out the trackball and handle that first. Okay, so with the machine powered down on my megacade, and I'm sure it's gonna be similar to a lot of you guys, we have 2 screws. I have one backed out on this side, and then I have another one backed out on this side. And this is all we need to do to flip this panel up, which goes a little something like this. Voila. So now we can get to the underworkings here, which, you know, it can be a daunting task if you've never done stuff like this before, but it really is kind of like a swapping one for another and using the existing cables. Take a lot of pictures, okay? If you are doing this and you want to make sure you're plugging things back in the right way, take a lot of pictures. Today, we're focusing right here on this guy. This is my trackball. It comes out with 4 screws, and then that's gonna back right off the bottom of the panel. Now, up here, you're gonna see some other cables here that don't exist on your cabinet. That's because I have buttons and some feed for my trackball that go to a separate Nighthawk computer in my machine. That's how I run Golden Tee Live, you know, 07 up to 2022 right now. We're getting ready for that 23, 24 drop. So this will not apply to any of you guys. What you need to remember is this little board right here. You're gonna see you have your power and ground for the trackball, and you're gonna see basically a blue and a purple, and you're gonna see a green and a yellow, and all of them plug in to this little board. And you're gonna wanna make sure you remember exactly which order these plug in. Like I said, take pictures, because this depends on the X and Y axis of your trackball. If you unplug these and you plug them back in the way they weren't intended, then your ball might be thinking it's rolling up and down when you're really rolling it left and right, and vice versa. So take the photos. Let me start dismantling this, and I will document it as we go. Okay guys, it's not the prettiest. Got a light hanging now so we can see what we're doing. I disconnected all my T-taps for my Golden Tee Nighthawk, but this is gonna be worth noting, because when you disconnect from the pins up top, I actually took a little piece of painter's tape and wrapped around each one of the pins to say it's gonna be the bottom left, bottom right, top right. And that pertains to the last 4 pins on this side of this board. And then also I did the same thing for the power, which plugs in over here. Just, if this makes it easier for you, take notes, wrap tape. It's not gonna look pretty, but it's gonna help you when you're putting things back together. I got my 4 trackball bolts out. So you can see my trackball housing is just kind of floating in there now. So I'm gonna go ahead and, let's pull it out of its spot nice and slow, and make sure we don't pull any cables out of place. All right, gang, got my trackball out. So all we need to do is basically back out all of the screws here, and the housing will split apart. You can get to the trackball, swap it out. I do have some little risers in here, like some spacers, because when I first got my machine, I felt like my trackball stuck up a little bit too high above the playfield. So this provides a gap around the top of the trackball. I also have some washers on the trackball plate, so keeps everything nice and snug and at a level where I feel like, you know, it's just not sticking up too high. So let's go ahead and back the screws out, split it apart, maybe give it a clean while you're in there. I'll probably do that, and I'm gonna swap it out for my diffused ball, and we'll just go ahead and put this guy back in. All right, boys, we're getting down to the nitty gritty today. Any of y'all ever wanna see what a real broken in trackball sounds like? Okay, here we go. Got the brand new diffused trackball installed. Put the housing back together on top. You just have to make sure you have your optic boards on each side wedged in where they're supposed to go. Everything will fit back together the way God intended it. And if you look on the bottom, you'll see I have a little LED cluster of lights. I will be removing that and replacing it with the LED Blinky version, but for now I'm leaving it put, so I can go ahead and get this done and mount it back up here. So all we got to do is add the screws. I gave it a good clean, and we're up and running. So, okay, back up and mounted. So these 4 screws that tap into the bottom of that trackball plate, always remember, you want to crank those suckers tight. I mean, crank them down. If you have any sort of avid trackball activity in your machine, those screws can come loose if they are not nice and snug, so just crank them down. And then we have all my cables here ready to be plugged back in. Pay no attention to the T-taps and the wire nuts. I did have to add some length onto some of these so I could, add the T-taps and hook it up to my Nighthawk and all that stuff. So that doesn't apply to you. You guys are only focused on these cables right here and plugging them back into that guy right there using these pin connectors on the end. So I'm gonna go ahead and put those back in now. We're gonna give it a test run. All right, back up and running. Got all my T-taps in for my Nighthawk, and this is all plugged back in. So everything is plugged back in the same order that it was unplugged. So we should be good. I'm gonna give it a little test run just to make sure Trackball is good before I dive into anything else. Get a nice sound of those bearings in there. Yeah, she's golden. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start doing the buttons now. So we're gonna do everything one by one. I have 39 buttons on this cabinet and all of them are going to LED Blinky, and so is this bad boy. Cannot wait. All right guys, time to move forward with the button swaps. I have my playfield flip back up. See my nice diffused trackball hanging out there. So we're gonna start and work from this side all the way over to the other side. We'll start with this guy right here, which is my player 3 start button. And basically the red and the black on each side is going to be disregarded. That is your low voltage power for your LED lights. And what we're going to be doing is focusing on these two guys right here that fit on those 115 terminals on the micro switches. And what we're going to do is we're going to use these same crimps connectors on the LED Blinky. So what you're going to have to do, if you look here, see those two little smaller 110 terminals. You can use the larger 115 connectors on them. You just want to give them a little crimp down with a pair of needle nose pliers and make sure they snug on there real tight. And then you'll save yourself hours of time going through and stripping the end of each wire and crimping on new connectors and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and start with this guy, and I'll see if I can maybe do some sort of a time lapse or something, but you'll get the general idea after I do this guy right here. Okay, so we have our low voltage power disconnected, and I'm just gonna give you guys a quick snapshot here. So to take these micro switches off, just gonna give it a little pop turn to the left there, and you're gonna pull it right out, and you can see we have our micro switch. Right, oh, look, that guy's already ready to go. So we're gonna go ahead and use these, and I have a tool for this. Let me grab it. I'll show you guys what you might want to grab to do this project so you can tighten down the back side of these nuts on the back of the button there. And anyway, let's get this moving along. This tool right here is going to come in really handy for your arcade buttons. Go ahead and slip that bad boy right over the back of that button. Give it a turn. She's already loose. You can see that it's loose from the front, kind of, but already good there. And moving right along. Go ahead and slip this bad boy out. Where are we at here? Okay, there we go. One down, almost one down, 39 more to go. You can see I have the new LED Blinky button installed and got the long RGB cable here, and we're gonna go ahead and snug that guy up to the bottom of the button, get it in there nice and tight, and crimp those connectors on. Here we go. First one done. So I have both of these connectors here nice and tightly crimped on the bottom of those 110 terminals on the LED Blinky buttons. Here is our RGB feed, and then we have our low voltage power here kind of daisy chained throughout, hanging off to the side, which I will then use to power the pack LED boards. But one done, let's start cruising along and see if we can just bang this all out. right, so we're officially halfway through with the install. I have the other half of the panel to do, but it's time to do the trackball. So this is what's going to mount to the bottom of your HAP style trackball. These LEDs will kind of, I don't know, countersink up into the bottom side of the trackball. And then you're going to use this one little screw. You're going to drill like a little pilot hole in the bottom of your trackball. It's going to go right in here, and you're going to put it in from the back side. Now I see there's some pins here. I didn't really want to jam them down into the plastic housing. I grabbed this little plastic washer, and I'm going to put it right over the hole like so that it will kind of help bridge the gap there, and it will keep the LEDs away from the trackball. If it's sunk in there too far, it'll definitely kind of rub on those LEDs, and you don't want that. So this should do the trick. So here's the bottom side of the trackball. You can see I have a little pilot hole right there, and that's what's going to tap into, that's what the screw's going to use to tap into the bottom of the housing right there. So I'm going to try and do this intermittently recording, but you know, nice and simple. One little screw right there, got the washer under it. It's nice and tight. That's all you need. Get the trackball illuminated. All right, boys, we are fully swapped. Literally got this done before my pack LED boards even came today. So I'm ready to take a piss and my back hurts, but I'm just ready to plug it in now. So I just finished the whole Blinky swap, and I'm officially at my mailbox right now, and it just came. My pack LED boards. Now it's time to wrap this up. Everything is done. Probably took me about 3.5 hours or so, start from finish. This is a cluster of my low voltage power for my previous LED buttons. I will need this to splice into this to power the pack LED boards. Take a look around the front. I have to say I like the way it looks, nice and uniform. So, I mean, really, just the gold leaves are really smooth, so I'm really looking forward to getting this thing wrapped up. And here we got the pack LED Blinky control boards here. So I'm gonna open these up real quick, and we'll talk about how we're gonna install these. So when you open up the pack LED board packaging, this is what you're gonna get. It's got 4 extra separate connectors up here. I'm not gonna be using these. This is if you wanna repin the end of every single one of those cables and put the pins in here. Or I guess bulk connectors. I would never do that. Here we got a little barrel plug on the end of this guy, which goes into the end of each one of the pack boards, and that's going to give it its power. And then you have a micro USB on the end of this USB cable, which is going to go in this end. You run that to the PC. I'm going to be cutting this connector off on the end, splicing it in, and we should have everything we need right under the hood. So I'm going to get this stuff set up, connect it. Okay, so this is how your buttons are going to plug into these pack boards. You can see that there's another strip of pins right here where they're going to go side by side. You're going to line up the yellow with the plus, and you make sure that's the right orientation, and then the slots are just numbered. So on these boards, you can plug in 20 buttons on each board, and we don't use these bottom sections here that say 64, and you don't use the other one on the other side. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can plug 10 buttons in on each side. Just keep the orientation with yellow at the top where the plus sign is. All right, so if you remember that power source that we had running up right here that supplied power to my static LED buttons, I snipped it off and I went ahead and spliced these barrel connector cables into that power source. And it's important to know that this is a 5-volt power source, and I did the same on both sides here. So now I have enough cable to run one to the back board there and another one up front to run it to the front board. Yes, I twist and tape. I don't care what anyone says. I've actually done this my whole life. I've never had a problem with it. If you're a butt connector guy, go ahead. I just know someone's gonna say something about it, and just know that I don't give a shit. So here we are, moving along. Let's get these boards in. I'm gonna run these USB cables and give it a power up, see what happens. Okay, so we have our little pack LED boards mounted. One right here, one right on this side. I have the micro USBs plugged in. They are feeding down through here into the gauntlet. And then I have my power cables here. So machine's on. I just wanted to test power and voltages. So we're gonna go ahead and plug all these bad boys in. And I'm gonna reboot and we're gonna turn it on. We're gonna see what this looks like. All right, finally all cleaned up. Even though it doesn't look like it's cleaned up, it is. So we have everything plugged in. You're gonna have a lot more cable management going on under the control deck, but we see everything's plugged in. Yellow is always going to be on the plus side, as you see right here. Same thing with this board. So we're all plugged in. I'm ready to boot. Let's see what she does. Go, first boot. So thank God I'm getting illumination on all buttons right now. So it's kind of just going through and populating them all one color at a time. Right now it's all blue, but we literally just booted. I haven't mapped anything. I haven't done anything, but it is on right from the jump. So I'm definitely stoked about that. All right, cool. So I'm gonna play around with this a little bit. Let me get into the menu stuff, and I'm just gonna show you guys, you know, what you need to do to customize it, or maybe customize the colors and the button layout for a specific game. But I'm just happy I don't have any dead buttons or anything stupid like that, and everything works. And I already tested all of my buttons too, as far as the momentary press. So I went into, I think it's a keyboardtester.com shortcut, thanks to my man Adam Bauer. So all of my buttons do work, everything's responding, so I'm really happy I was able to get this done in one shot. So anyway, let's get down to the nitty gritty and show off what LED Blinky can do. Welcome to the aftermath of LED Blinky, right? So we want to go ahead and configure these buttons. We want to show some of the front end stuff. I want to show you what it's going to do when you set it up and customize it the way that you want it. Now that I have everything done here, yeah, and by the way, this is a little wallpaper from my old basement back in Michigan. I miss this space, but that's why I have the arcade I have here now. So we're going to pull up the LED Blinky stuff. Let's go to our file explorer here. We're going to go to tools, at least on Omega, it's in tools. And we're going to go to LED Blinky. So the first thing you're going to want to do, which I'm not going to showcase in this video because my boy Arcade Adam and I did a live stream together where he basically remoted in and we did this process together. It's a long video. I will throw the link to that video in the description, and you guys can follow that in a separate video. But basically the first thing you would do is you're going to launch the LED Blinky Config Wizard and basically map it out and tell LED Blinky which buttons are what, right? So it's going to be player 1, button 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, same with player 2. And then once you're done telling LED Blinky where all of your buttons are located, then you can go in and do some fun stuff, which is what we're going to do right now. So first things first, your animation editor is going to be the thing that determines what color you want every button to be as far as saving an animation goes. So let's do this. I'm going to open this up. It's going to basically show kind of a willy-nilly layout of what your layout is. You have to create this, but you see I got trackball, player 1 buttons, player 2 buttons, and if I want to change this, for example, I can change the color of any button to any color I want, and if I save that animation, it'll be an animation that can be used in the front end. So if I want it to be 4 different static colors, which I actually have set up, I will show you that in a little bit, I can do that here. So for example, let's go to player 2 button 7, and I'm going to hit this slider here, and you can see that it's lighting up player 2 button 7, and I can change the colors all around. I can make it whatever color I want, yada yada. You can create all sorts of colors and animations in this, and you can do this for all the buttons. So let's just go ahead and exit out of this. I am not going to save, and then we're going to move on to the, let's see, we want to go to config. All right, so here's where you want to change button layouts and styles for individual games. The script that I'm using was already created by some of my homeboys, and basically main is all there, every game. What we're going to do here is we're going to go to front end options. So front end options, just to show you guys what this looks like. Front end startup animation. So when you start up Big Box, it's going to do this pattern 73.lwax. Now we can test it. When I hit test, you can see that that quick animation goes. I can hit stop. Usually it's just like a 3 or 4 second animation, and then it stops. And what it does after that is it goes into the menu that I created, which is right here, the Scantron 4 player. So let's stop this, and I'll show you that static set that we did that I told you about a little bit ago. Let's hit test here. Now you can see I have everything static now. So this is what it looks like when I hit a button or I move the joystick on a tracked mode. It goes to a default 4-player static setup, and you can see I swapped out player 1, 2, 3, and 4 all have their start and coin buttons are the Eclipse buttons. I wanted to differentiate those from the rest of the buttons. I think it turned out great. It's a no-brainer which one that these are, unplayable buttons when you're playing games for the most part. So we're going to go ahead and stop that animation, and then so your quit animation is going to also be the same thing that I have set for the startup animation. So when I quit Big Box or when I back out of a menu, it's going to give you this quick animation. Now screensaver. So right here, now hold on, let me back up a little bit. All of these have a zillion different animations you can use. For example, if I wanted to change my startup animation to pattern 02 and hit test, then this is what the animation would look like. So you got literally like 75 of these for each one of these settings. So I'm going to leave it the way I have it. I'm just trying to give you guys a quick snapshot of how to navigate this. And then same for the front end animation, right? So my Scan 4 player, if I want this to change to some different animation when I touch the joystick and I'm navigating through the menu, then I can do that. For example, let's go to pattern 70, see what that looks like. All right, so this is what pattern 70 looks like. I mean, if you want to have a seizure, you can do that too. You can change it to some easygoing ones, whatever. Let's stop that. And then the quit animation right here. So this is going to be like when you quit the front end, right? So the front end quit animation, screensaver animation. This is what happens when I'm essentially in a tracked mode. When you stop navigating the menu, about 30 seconds later, it will just go into this screensaver type animation, which I really like. So there's that. Let's go into Launchbox. All right, so for example, when I hover over a game, like let's say I go into Arcade Classics and I want to play a main game. This by default was set to 30 seconds. I set it to 5. What this means is when you land on a game in the menu, it will show you which controls you use for that game, and it will light them up the exact color that they were lit up in the arcade when that game was made. So for example, if I wanted to play, I don't know, Mortal Kombat, then player 1 would have red for high punch, low punch. The 2 middle buttons would be white for block, and then blue for high kick and low kick. And the run button, if you're playing MK3, is going to light up yellow. This is not going to be anything. Only player 1 and 2 will light up. And that little demo is only going to be 5 seconds long. And then after that, it goes back into my Scantron static color layout. If you're having a hard time following it, it's because I had a hard time following it at first too, but you will get used to it. These are some other options that we don't need to mess around with. This is just basically an LED Blinky 101. I apologize if I'm not giving you guys a super good idea of that, but we're going to go ahead and open up Launchbox, and we don't want to save because I don't want to save anything I was just doing, and I'm going to give you an example of what it looks like when we play some games. So let's go ahead and bring up Big Box here and get into the game. So you're going to see this light show go up when we enter the front end here. Give it a few seconds. There it is. And then now it's in my static Scantron 5K layout, which we dubbed it when we were setting this up. So I'm going to go ahead and kill that, and we're going to go into my favorites wheel, and we're going to check some stuff out here. So as you see, if I am navigating around, it's going to keep it solid on this Scantron layout. That's the way I wanted it. And then let's just go into arcade. Let's go into favorites. All right, so I play a lot of Golden Tee. This is not going to be on your machine because I have a separate Nighthawk. But for example, did you see how quick that happened? I didn't want it to linger for 30 seconds. When I went to Golden Tee, it lights up the only buttons that are used for Golden Tee, and the trackball is white. And then 5 seconds later, it goes back to the static 4-player setup that we had. So let's go to a different game. We'll land on a game. Matter of fact, let's go to NBA Jam just because I think that's a really cool looking. Let's go to NBA Jam. Look at how beautiful this is. You have white, red, and blue. You got your player 1 start. See, again, for the purpose of this review, I probably should not have it on 5-second delay, but just look at that. Nice little snapshot. You're going through the menu. These are all different versions of NBA Jam. Let's go to something else that you guys are, all right, Pac-Man, right? Pac-Man, we don't use any buttons. Start and coin, that's all you use, and you use a joystick, that's it. Let's go to Pit Fighter. So there you go, 3 players, top 3 buttons are all lit up the way they're supposed to be. Start and coin, pole position, nice and simple. Start and coin, 2 buttons. And these are all going to be the colors that they were supposed to be when the game was created. So what we're going to do is keep moving on through. Pong does not use any buttons. Virtua Tennis, I mean, some of them had to be improvised, but look at this, Primal Rage, oh my god, dude. So, loving this so far. I'm going to let this sit in a track mode here for a little bit. After about 30 seconds, it will go into the screensaver mode. So you'll have a little bit of an animation, and as you walk away from the machine, if you're not playing it, it'll just kind of sit there and, you know, have a cool little animation, and it'll just loop that while the game is in a track mode until you touch a joystick or a button again. Okay, so now the menu starts moving. It goes back into a track mode, and it will play this particular front end screensaver animation that I chose in the LED Blinky front end settings. So this is the way I like it. There are endless options. You can create your own in that LED Blinky animation editor that shows the layout of all of your buttons. If you want to, it's very time intensive, so if you want to do that, you can. If you want to use one of the 75 other light shows that are in there, you can do that too. But I wanted to keep this install and this review somewhat short and sweet, but I think you guys get the point. As soon as I touch the joystick again, there we go, we're back into the static mode here. And when we land on games, it's gonna give us a little snapshot of what that game actually consists of when it comes to the buttons. So let's back out of here. And then we're, when you're in the main menu, it's gonna stay on the static mode that I have created with Adam Bauer, mind you. I probably wouldn't have been able to get through a lot of this as quickly as I did without him. So big props to you, Bauer. I appreciate you. And I think the community definitely appreciates you as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm loving Blinky so far. I really put this off for a long time. I don't know why I did, but yeah. Anyway, guys, let's go ahead and wrap this up. That was a short and sweet little synopsis here. I hope it helped you guys out. Like I said, I will drop that link to Adam Bauer's live arcade call for help on my machine here, and it will give you the nuts and bolts of everything that you're going to need to do to go through the config wizard and get your LED Blinky set up. That wraps up this review. We are up and running. Everything looks beautiful. Got her in attract mode, sitting there on screensaver with the LED Blinky. If you're on the fence whether or not you want to take the plunge and do the LED Blinky swap on your arcade machine, I can tell you, if you have a half a piece of arcade ingenuity and you've spliced some wires or replaced some buttons before, it's really nothing more than that. I put it off for a long time because I didn't want to deal with the software side of it, but now that stuff is so streamlined, it makes it a lot easier. So if you don't want to order your parts from Ultimark, and you want to do the LED Blinky swap or buy any parts for your arcade machine, pinball, whatever, right here in the United States, make sure you use the Scantron 5K promo code in your shopping cart. That will save you 5%. I just like promoting companies who practice good business, good customer service, fast shipping, quick responses. Save that 5%, and I will keep the reviews coming. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're gonna go ahead and finish up a little cocktail here next to my skull. Thank you so much for all the love, the likes, the shares, the subscriptions. Please continue to do so, and I will keep making the content. I will see you guys on the next one. Let's lose. So let's check out this Mortal Kombat layout. LED Blinky on point.
Excellent.
She's beautiful. Let's just take it down to MK3, shall we? Got the run button.
Excellent.
Just try that on a standard 8-button layout. You won't. You can't. You can't do it. That's why this layout is the layout.